Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining the Becoming Unshakable podcast. Today, I have Jim Matuga on, and his team came to me with his background story and just kind of the focus that he has on something that he really focuses on, which is followership and really humility in this space. So it's moving a little bit away from what we think of as traditional leadership. And so I really, as I looked a little bit more about his background, I decided it'd be important to have him on here. So welcome, Jim.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it, Heather. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. First question for you is this. What does being unshakable mean to you personally and professionally?
Well, the first word that comes to mind is being steadfast and making sure that you're grounded in your core beliefs and values, whether that's integrity or service, whatever the things that you stand for, and making sure that you're steadfast in those. And I also think about the concept of excellence. Here in my team, we talk a lot about being people of excellence who serve people of excellence. And, in my humble opinion, excellence and mediocrity cannot coexist in organizations. So, how do we do that? We've got to be unshakable, we've got to be steadfast.
I love that so much. I love asking that question because I feel like
Yeah, that's great.
you would not believe there's a lot of different directions. I'm sure over time there'll be more consistency, but I love to hear that. So
Thank you.
share a moment in your journey, your leadership journey, where you felt tested and how
Mm.
you moved through that situation.
Sure. What day is it? I think in a leadership position, I feel like we're being tested every day, especially if we are people of excellence and we do have values and grounding, and we're trying to be in that excellence lane as opposed to mediocrity. And sometimes I feel like, just here in my company, making sure that we are doing weekly check-ins with our team, and me being able to talk a little bit about our culture. We have a culture guide, and every Monday I sit down with our team and just talk about one of our core values and what that means. I relate it to typically a lesson from John Maxwell. He's my leadership guru that I've been studying for so many years, and really tying it into real world experiences, and how can we move from this mindset of acceptance and moving into excellence, becoming leaders as opposed to just kind of going with the flow.
What's a mistake or a setback that shaped the way you lead today?
Mm. I would say early on in my career, I wasn't prepared. I wasn't equipped to be a leader. I was thrust into a position back in the 1990s, and I just thought, well, I've got the title. That means everybody has to listen to what I do, or what I say. And it wasn't very long, a couple of weeks in, that I thought, my goodness, I have so much to learn about leadership. I wasn't prepared. I wasn't equipped, and that's one of the things that I try to do today is to help equip young leaders.
Talk to us just for a little bit about the followership concept that you have, particularly just the humble influence that you talk about in this book that you have too. I'm super interested and I'm sure people are listening and be like, it's kind of curious.
Yeah, yeah. I can kind of give you the background of how I came up with this, but honestly, my passion in my career and in my life for the last 38 years has been helping small businesses, nonprofits, and even some large companies succeed in their business. And as I started looking at organizations, myself included, learning about leadership, it was very interesting to me that there was so much time, money, energy. There's thousands of books and articles written on leadership and how to be a great leader, and we've probably all, read those books and attended those seminars and so forth on how to be a great leader, but nobody was really addressing what I think is the key to great leadership, and that is how do we equip the people who are in followership roles. And first, I wanted to talk about, the idea of dispelling the myth that followership is less than or less important. Or, why do we chastise people who don't want to be the leader and take charge? Well, not all of us are equipped, prepared, or even want to be in leadership roles. And so I thought somebody needs to write something about that. And so that's what I started doing. 18 years ago, Heather, I started the journey of writing this book, but it took me a long time to really come up with the principles and the concepts and really package it in a way where it's palatable, and it's something that can actually help people.
And don't you find, because I know what I do with like just all the stuff I write and speak and books and
Hmm.
all the things, I find that there's an evolution that takes place inside of us
Mm,
that puts us in a better position to talk about, like for in this position, in this specific scenario, the followership idea. And it's probably because of lessons learned, like your
that's
hand
right.
slapped, the
That's right.
failures that made you fall down, the things that you did well when you saw a team succeed together, all the things. There's all these things that kind of pile up that
That's right.
make
Yeah.
the evidence or the business case to write this really compelling, right?
Yes, and it's a calling of sorts. I'm a trained writer. I went to journalism school and have written other books and so forth. But this one was different because it wasn't a marketing book. I've got two marketing books, and everybody's got a marketing book. And so this was a challenge, and so for me to kind of put myself out there in a way that says, hey, I think I've got something here that can help people, especially, and it's written from two perspectives. One is like, how can leaders understand the value of followers, right? And being able to think through that, like if you are going to be an unshakable leader, you have to understand and have empathy for the followership. And I also make the argument that most great leaders have been at once a great follower at some point in their journey. And so I feel like the two are inextricably tied and connected, leadership and followership. And so I think that that journey that I've been on, the experiences that I've had, I could have probably thought of writing this book, like I said, 18 years ago, but to actually come out and do it, it took a lot of experience and a lot of stories that I've heard and examples that I've seen, mistakes that I've made, and so forth. So yeah, I think I think you have to have those miles under you.
How do you how do you lead yourself on the hard days? Like what
Mm.
is in your self-leadership toolkit?
Yeah. Well, that's a very important point that you bring up, because in order to be a great leader of people, you have to be a great leader of yourself. And there's some days, man, I just don't feel it. And so I think, I'm a person of discipline. If I set out to do something, whether it's eliminating sugar from my diet, I can do it. I have discipline, and I feel like, the leadership is the same thing. I often tell the story that on a day that, for instance, today I came in and the very first thing that I did, I get the office opened up and I have three things that I have to do before the end of the day. Most of those times when I have those lists, I don't want to do them, but I make myself do them. I'm disciplined and I say by 9 o'clock, I'm going to have these three things done. I get them done and I feel like, okay, now I can do the things that I want to do. Because honestly, I had a conversation with a friend the other day. He's a business colleague, and he said, Jim, it just seems like you're doing the work that you love to do. He goes, how do you do that? I said, well, not everything in my work are things that I love to do. There's some things that I just despise doing, like dealing with health insurance benefits and stuff like that.
I'm with you.
Yeah, but the things that I love to do, like being on a podcast or helping people and coaching people and things of that nature, that's the stuff that I live for. And so I have to do certain things so that I get to do the things that I love to do.
I hope you all heard that whole like have to get to, it's not always like people do see kind of like the sexiness of all the work that we do in this space, right? It just looks like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, they're on a plane and they're doing this and they're whatever they're doing. And I'm like, okay, but let me just like back up and talk about why this is the pain in the tuchus, right? So I think it's important to also for us to even show that. So yes, this is some, I'm with you. I feel like it's a mission, it's a calling. It's what I should be doing. And at the same time, there's things I have to do that I don't love, like
Yeah.
writing the actual book and taking, like, parsing out the time to super duper focus in on it is extremely hard with all the other things going on, right? So I think
Yeah.
it's just under giving people the context so they can understand that and that they don't just see the shiny end result of things.
Yeah, it's like they call it the soft underbelly of business. It's like the stuff that it's like the vulnerabilities. These are things that I really don't like to do, but I do them, and I think that's part of self leadership is doing the hard things, doing the things you don't want to do, and doing them anyway, and doing them with excellence.
I love that. One of the things I talk about in self leadership is that there is not that excellence and looking at progress over perfection are not two distinct things. That we
Mm,
can be excellent in everything we do, but we can give ourselves grace to understand that when we do fall down,
Yeah.
that it's the baby step forward or even the two steps back that actually helps us become more of that kind of shiny diamond. And we often will be like, well, if I'm focused, I want to be a perfectionist. Everything has to be just perfect. And when we have that mindset, we think that that knocks right up against this excellence
Mm,
idea. And I
mm.
don't agree. What about you?
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. We've all heard paralysis by analysis, and you spend all this time preparing to go, and you never go. And so I do believe that you have to. I'm a creative person. That's a person who loves to get my ideas out there. And if I waited till everything was perfect, nothing would ever happen. I would just be stuck in this area. And I hear this a lot from young people that I coach. They say, Jim, I'm just stuck. And I say, well, the easiest way to get unstuck is to take a step. Which way do you want to go? Left, right, back, forward, maybe to a 45-degree angle? I don't know, but take a step and do something. Yeah, but I'm afraid. Well, don't be afraid. You got to just put yourself out there, writing a book or, putting a blog post out there or writing a column in a trade magazine. That's hard to do. And oftentimes you wonder, like, as a person who is trying to make a difference and help people, you're going to have people that'll criticize things, and you can't please everybody. You have to figure out, what is the thing that you're trying to accomplish and do it to the best of your ability, knowing that you may want to redo something or improve it the next round. And I think
Hmm.
by creating content, by creating products, or even no matter what role you're in as a leader, having those difficult conversations or may not be something you want to do, but they need to be done. And you have to just maybe learn from each experience.
I love that. Yeah, the learning is the key, isn't it? Because I
Yeah.
think if we commit to being lifelong learners, then everything in
Mm.
our eyes then should be a journey
Yeah.
towards just constantly learning. That's pretty much what we're doing. We're on a journey of always learning. And if
Yeah.
we have that frame, then things that happen when we fall down and we don't quite get to where we want to go, it doesn't feel as profound. You know what I mean?
That's right.
I
Yeah.
even think about like I'm a speaker in addition to other things, and I think
Yes.
about sometimes I get on stage and then I'll be like, oh, that was amazing, and I'll look at the reviews and I'm like, oh, those are great. Couple little maybe comments of people that maybe didn't love it, but like the majority were great. And then sometimes I'll see it and I'll be like, either I don't get the feedback, and why did I get what's happening? And again, every time I'm looking at it, though, I'm looking at it as the opportunity to learn, whether it's learn that was great, learn that I need to change this, always learning. If I get to the point, though, because I've been here, by the way, where every time I do it, I see like a few different comments. I'm like, I failed, desperately. It's awesome. Really not great
Yeah.
that I did that.
Yeah.
And then it was just always awful. And I felt like I was set back for some time, but because I went into everything, now I go into everything learning. It's just like, okay, that's a learning experience. And that's
Exactly.
it.
I love that perspective. And it seems like we're in an age of instant validity. You put something out on social media. Did it get good traction? Did it get engagements, likes, comments, or whatever? And if it doesn't, you almost feel like, oh, I failed. But you got to keep going. And I think that is the way it is in leadership. You may, if I had a nickel for every mistake that I've made in business, I wouldn't have to work anymore. And so, like I always say, we're going to, as leaders especially, we're going to make mistakes. Every day we're going to make mistakes. We're going to say the wrong thing. We're going to maybe say something in the way that it wasn't intended, or it's going to be received in a way that we didn't anticipate. But the main thing is that, it's okay to make those mistakes on some of the small things, but the large items, we don't want to make the mistakes, right? So we got to put appropriate time and thought into those big things. So it's not across the board like we're just winging it, but I think that you got to be afraid to not be afraid to let yourself be a little bit vulnerable in those situations. Put yourself out there in ways that maybe that makes you feel uncomfortable, all right? And even in conversations, I've been really honing in on this lately, and it's this like 10% rule that I've been calling it. It seems like in a lot of difficult conversations, especially, we'll say the 90% really well, but that last 10% maybe even goes unspoken. Like the most important part of the conversation that we need to have, we just eliminate it. And so everybody walks
Mm,
out of the thing and they're feeling good about it, but we didn't really hit the main 10% issue. And sometimes I wonder, like, can we just go to the 10% and not have to do all the 90%,
Ah,
you know? But I don't know if you can understand and
yes,
relate to what I'm saying, Heather. But
yes.
I think in leadership, sometimes those difficult things, putting ourselves out there, have to happen, and we will learn from them, and it'll make us better.
How do you stay grounded, like personally,
Hmm.
when things around you seem uncertain and chaotic?
Hmm. Well, personally, I'm a person of faith, and so I put my trust in my Creator, God, and that's how I keep grounded. Honestly, there's times where, like we were kind of talking a few minutes ago about that self-discipline and awareness to make sure that you're leading yourself well, and that's what I have to do, because if I don't have that as my center, then everything else is kind of just, to me personally. I know that's not for everybody, but
Mhm.
that's my belief.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. It may be different for everyone. It doesn't need to be cookie cutter. I asked that
That's
because
right.
I think it's important for people to hear all the different responses, and maybe
Mm.
there's a way that they can seek out, a certain path for themselves
Yeah.
to help themselves stay grounded. Because that's, becoming unshakable doesn't mean, well, number one, it's really not a destination. We're just always in that process of trying to do
Mm.
it. And
Mm.
and part of that is, how do we create the protective mechanism that's around us when everything else is nutty, that we kind of just can keep our grounding. And I think that,
Yeah.
so whatever that is for you, faith
Yeah.
is a big one for me
Yeah.
too, but
Yeah.
like you
Oh,
said, it's
that's
not
cool.
for
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
So
And the other thing about that is, I think, having almost I don't want to use the word holistic, because that sounds maybe a little bit strange to people, but it is having all of the areas of your life in focus, whether it's your spirituality, it's your health, your fitness, your financial, the relationships that you're in, your friends that you're hanging out with, the people that you're connected with. Those all those things make us just, to me, that's what makes life great, is having a sense of grounding and focusing in on the things that are important. And I think, no matter what your faith is, I think we can all maybe believe that if you have a well-rounded um, mind, spirit, body, et cetera, it all works together. And I think that's the key to really thriving in life, and not just surviving.
what's the one thing you've had to unlearn in
Mhm.
order to kind of get to the place you're at now? What's the one thing you had to unlearn?
I think the biggest thing for me, Heather, is the fact that I used to think that I could do it all. And I have pretty broad shoulders, and I can carry a lot of load. But yeah, I mentioned John Maxwell. He has one of the principles in his excellent leadership book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. It's the law of the lid. And that is the one thing that I had to unlearn. I thought that, like, I needed to keep the top on the bottle to keep everybody controlled and focused. But once I took the lid off and removed myself from the top of the neck of the bottle, so to speak, my company just started thriving. That was several years ago, and really just understanding, leaning into these concepts of, like, corporate culture and company culture, and really, like, not just saying, "Oh yeah, I'm a culture guy," but actually, like, believing it and living it, and taking myself off of the top of the bottle, and letting my team just thrive and do great things.
In that context, what did you say? What would you say would be like the number one thing you did to
Yeah.
change like the whole lid concept? What was the thing you did?
Yeah. And so I had this principle, and it came out in 2019. And I said by 2030, I wanted to have, so I gave myself like a 10-year runway. I wanted to have a business that did not rely on me. That was the overarching, like, this is the goal. I wanted to have, by 2030, a business that I owned that did not rely on me. I didn't have to be here. It could run and have legacy and employ people and grow and serve people and do all the things that we do. And that right there, just writing that down, that one little sentence, it's been on my monthly planner ever since. And I focus on that. And so, in order for that to happen, what had to be true? I had to have a leadership team. I had to have a succession plan. I had to have, monthly plans to say, okay, what is next? Okay, so I have a successor that I'm nurturing, and he's been with me for over 12 years now. And I was like, okay, I got to bring him. I got to show him the P&L. I got to teach him the inside of the business. And that was hard to do. Like, he's going to see my numbers. Like, if you talked about the soft underbelly, he's like, here's Jim. Okay. This is what we're all about. And being able to kind of have that uneasiness and breaking through that and being able to say, okay, now if I'm going to do this, I have to take some hard steps, and I want to create a plan. I can't wait to the week before I'm ready to hand this over to somebody and say, here, let me teach you about the business. And so we've been on this journey for several years now, 5 years actually, of going through that. And it's just paid so many dividends. And I just I'm getting out of the way, letting these guys do their thing.
If there's somebody right now like listening, let's just say it's another entrepreneur. It could be anybody listening right now, but let's just say it's another entrepreneur, someone who's trying to really, stake their claim, trying to set the mark on their business, but they feel like they're flailing, like they're really barely holding it together.
Yeah.
What's the thing you'd like for them to leave with today?
I would say, I would use the word intentionality. There has to be an intentionality, understanding, what it is that they may be dealing with. Why are you flailing? I have a business coach, have had for about 7 years. And one of the things we talk about all the time is like, what's your challenges right now? And I try to talk those through. And most of the times these days, they're small things, but back when I first started, I was flailing. I didn't know what to do. I didn't even understand like the purpose of my business and trying to understand that. So I think we always hear, you have to start with why, right? Simon Sinek's book, and understanding that, like, what is the purpose? What am I trying to do here? I think that big picture question mark, if you can start answering that and leaning into, what is the purpose here? What are we trying to do? And honestly, that's a function of followership as well, because I believe that most people are designed, whether it's in a company or in a nonprofit or even in a family situation, most people are designed, they want to contribute, they want to have an impact on the lives of other people. I mean, that's what makes us different than all other living organisms. Right? We care about each other, and we want to take care of each other, and we want to have impact and purpose in our life. We only have one chance at this thing. How can we maximize it? And as business leaders, I think that's an opportunity for us to elevate people, equip them to become great leaders someday. And how we do that is through, in my humble opinion, teaching them how to be great followers.
Love it. Love it. Jim, I'm really thankful that you just said yes to coming on, and that I
Yeah.
said yes back, and that we were able to let
too.
let everybody who's listening kind of just get exposure to some of this conversation. For those who are listening, please do share it far and wide. It just helps everybody else become unshakable in the process. We don't have to keep this all to ourselves. So thank
Yeah.
you, Jim, for coming on.
Great.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you too.
And thanks everybody for listening to the Becoming Unshakable podcast. Be well.